special education teacher was killed in a road crash on Monday. Police say the driver accused of slamming into her is an illegal immigrant with a deportation order who was allegedly speeding away from ICE agents.
The driver's being held without bond on multiple traffic charges, including reckless driving, driving without a valid license, and vehicular homicide. According to the Department of Homeland Security, Oscar Vasquez Lopez is an illegal immigrant from Guatemala who was ordered to leave the U.S. by a federal judge in 2024. When ICE officers attempted to stop him in Chatham County, just outside the Savannah city limits, Vasquez Lopez allegedly pulled over and then drove off, making a U-turn and running a red light before colliding with another vehicle. The crash killed Dr. Linda Davis, a special education teacher who was driving to a staff training day at Hess K-8 school about half a mile away from the crash site.
Tonight, authorities say a school teacher was killed in a crash that they say was caused by a man trying to escape immigration agents in Savannah, Georgia. Police say agents were trying to pull over Oscar Vasquez Lopez when he hit the other car. Lopez was treated for injuries. Homeland Security tonight saying he was in the U.S. illegally with an order of removal.
By the time you hear her name, they would have already covered this up. But today, in a vehicle pursuit, ICE hit and took the life of an elementary school teacher in Savannah, Georgia. Her name was Linda Davis, and it's very unlikely that she's going to get any sort of media recognition whatsoever, despite the obvious brute force displayed by ICE in this case. You see, ICE had been racially profiling a Latino driver, which they are now legally allowed to do, by the way. But they had been high-speed chasing him down the road with very little regard to any other road user. You're going to need to remember that part because that is very important. Now, in this high-speed vehicle pursuit, the Latino driver had actually crashed into the elementary school teacher who was just parked by the road, completely unrelated. She was then taken to the hospital, but unfortunately it was too late. Now, before you even try to defend ICE in any way, the local police in Georgia had actually come out to say and actively condemn the way ICE had chosen to carry out this operation. They had actually said that if they were the ones that had answered that call, this would have never happened. She didn't have to die. Because unlike ICE, typically in America, police are trained to understand the integrity of the road and how to actually respect other road users despite any police chase or any high-speed pursuit. And so for the police themselves to condemn the way ICE carried out this operation should say a lot to you. Should say a lot, especially considering that ICE is actually considered pretty decently. They're actually well regarded in a lot of police eyes in America for whatever reason. So for the police themselves to condemn them should say about everything you need to know.
This undocumented immigrant, Oscar Lopez, took the life of special ed teacher Dr. Linda Davis in Savannah, Georgia. While fleeing from ICE, he had a final removal order placed on him ever since 2024, 2 years ago. 2 years ago. So when he seen ICE, he pretended like he was going to pull over, and then he pulled off. And he did a U-turn and ran into Dr. Linda Davis' vehicle. This is the aftermath of that accident, and ultimately taking her life. Now, while he was driving, he didn't even have a valid driver's license. Y'all hear me? He had a final removal order from 2 years ago, and plus he didn't have a driver's license when he ran into Dr. Linda Davis, ultimately taking her life. He's arrested, and this is what the assistant secretary had to say about this whole situation, this tragedy. Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin called the crash an absolute tragedy, which could have been avoided, and said fleeing from federal law enforcement is both a crime and dangerous. This homicide is an absolute tragedy and deadly consequences of politicians and the media constantly demonizing ICE officers and encouraging those here illegally to resist arrest. A felony, McLaughlin said, to resist arrest. These dangerous tactics are putting people's lives at risk. Fleeing from a resistant federal law enforcement is not only a crime, but extraordinarily dangerous and put oneself or officers and innocent civilians at risk. Now an innocent bystander has lost their life. Oh, man, I agree with that statement. What do y'all feel about the statement? And this is what a parent had to say about Dr. Linda Davis, how Dr. Linda Davis impacted her child in learning.
My daughter went from not wanting to go to school, crying every single day, and then Miss Davis came around and she was excited to go to school. She was just so bubbly, and when someone says a ray of sunshine, that's what she is.
A black beloved teacher is dead, killed in a high-speed ice chase in her own neighborhood. This should have never fucking happened. Dr. Linda Davis, a special education teacher, died Monday morning after her car was hit by a driver fleeing ICE. He ran a red light and crashed into her car. He's now charged with first-degree homicide and reckless driving. Local leaders say Savannah police weren't even informed. This was an avoidable tragedy. Dr. Davis dedicated her life to kids with special needs. Her community is devastated. I'm devastated. We all should be devastated because this shit is not right. Share this and raise awareness because this should be out there. And nobody's talking about this.
On February 16th, in Savannah, Georgia, Dr. Linda Davis was on the highway going to work at Hayes Elementary School. Linda has been part of the school system since 2022. In 2025, she got hired to be a special education teacher at Hayes Elementary School pre-K through 8th grade. That morning, while Dr. Davis was on the highway, ICE pulled over Oscar Vasquez, 38-year-old illegal from Guatemala. Oscar arrived to the United States as an unknown date and at an unknown location. Oscar has been issued a removal warrant since 2024 by a federal judge. ICE pulled over Oscar and he complied, but made a reckless U-turn and running a red light trying to get away from ICE. He led ICE on a high-speed chase. That is where he ran into the back of Linda's Lexus. The firefighters had to rip off the roof of her car to get her out. This is where there's two versions. The police said Linda was rushed to the hospital, and that's where she died. ICE is saying that she died on the scene. But as usual, they didn't render no aid, no nothing to this woman. Okay, but Oscar had minor injuries. So Oscar is currently booked at the Chatham County Jail. He is being held on an immigration detainer. He is charged with first-degree homicide, reckless driving, driving without a valid driver's license, failure to obey traffic signals. So all this man had to do was just comply because you got caught. You have an issue, a warrant issued for your detainer. And none of this should have happened. And a lot of people are saying, like, the local police were informed. I shouldn't be doing high-speed chases. Now another American citizen has been killed indirectly by ICE. The first three were directly by ICE. This one was indirectly because Oscar crashed into her. So now a lot of people have questions. When is this going to stop? When are people going to stop being killed? It's a lot to take in. But hell, what do I know? I'm just a talking head.
A beloved elementary school teacher in Georgia was killed during her morning commute after a driver fleeing an attempted ICE traffic stop crashed into her vehicle. I'm Major League, and this is news you need to know.
And has K through 8 confirming that Dr. Linda Davis was killed in a car wreck just blocks from the school at Whitfield Avenue. The cause, a man without legal status fleeing a traffic stop with immigration's enforcement.
According to reporting from the Associated Press and local Savannah news, 52-year-old Linda Davis was driving to her school on Monday morning when her car was struck at an intersection. The driver who hit her, identified as Oscar Vasquez Lopez, had initially pulled over for ICE agents, but then sped away, making a reckless U-turn and running a red light, striking Miss Davis. Linda Davis was a dedicated special education teacher at Hess K-8 school and was just a half-mile from her classroom when the collision occurred. Davis was pronounced dead at the hospital after being pried from her vehicle by local emergency crews. Eyewitnesses at the scene reported seeing federal agents in tactical gear detaining a person immediately after the collision, but noted that no federal agents appeared to offer medical aid to Miss Davis as she was trapped in her car. This incident shines a light on the utter recklessness in which ICE federal officers are conducting their business in our streets. Someone overstaying their visa does not warrant a wild pursuit through city streets. But I want to know what you think. Drop your thoughts in the comments and remember to follow Major League TV on all platforms.
ICE killed a black woman and beloved special education teacher in Savannah, Georgia, in an incident that local leaders say was completely preventable. Let's talk about Miss Linda Davis and say her name. Miss Linda Davis was a special education teacher in Savannah, Georgia, and had been serving students in the district since at least 2022. On Monday morning, she was driving near her school around 7:45 a.m. when DHS, who decided to chase an undocumented man during morning rush hour traffic, caused the accident. The man that was being chased hit Miss Davis's car, and Miss Davis had to be cut out from her vehicle by firefighters who performed CPR at the scene. She sadly passed away at the scene. Now, according to local news, everyone who knew Miss Davis described her as a light. Her principal called her a beloved member of our school family whose loss affected the campus deeply. She made students, custodians, teachers, and everybody around her feel like they mattered. Her school had to bring in counselors to help students and staff process this tragedy, and now her students must exist in a world where she is no longer here. The man DHS was chasing in rush hour traffic was Oscar Vasquez Lopez. He is a 38-year-old undocumented man from Guatemala, and federal agents spotted him and tried to pull him over and initiate a traffic stop. At this time, there does not seem to be a reason for the traffic stop other than the color of his skin. And just a reminder, the Supreme Court made stops like this legal when it said that it would allow ICE to consider race, ethnicity, language spoken, and appearance as factors when conducting immigration stops. Now, when Mr. Lopez was pulled over, fear took over him and he fled. When he fled, they chased him through Savannah streets during the morning rush hour. And I know there's some of you that will demand answers as to why he didn't just stop and comply with an agency that has been shooting and killing people on camera, instead of just wondering why ICE initiated a high-speed chase during rush hour traffic to kidnap an undocumented man with no criminal history in the county. Now, the reality is that the feds chased this man in rush hour traffic despite local police having a strict no-chase policy specifically designed to protect citizens from this kind of tragedy. County Chairman Chester Ellis said local leaders had no clue DHS was conducting their mass deportation operations in the first place, and the local police chief called Miss Davis's death more than likely preventable. Now, Mr. Lopez is being charged with first-degree homicide by vehicle, reckless driving, driving without a valid license, and failure to obey a traffic control device. The feds, for their part, will go on to terrorize someone else.
Dr. Linda Davis should still be alive. An elementary school teacher in Savannah, Georgia. She woke up, she got in her car, she was going about her day, and she never made it to her destination because ICE initiated a stop of Oscar Vasquez Lopez. He fled. A high-speed situation followed, and Dr. Davis was killed in the crash. Local departments across this country have strict pursuit policies for a reason. High-speed chases are one of the most dangerous decisions law enforcement can make. Innocent people die, not the suspect, not the officer, bystanders. Dr. Linda Davis was a bystander. When the Supreme Court expands or reinforces broad reasonable suspicion standards in immigration enforcement, that discretion doesn't stay in a courtroom. It hits the streets. It becomes operational. And in the field, discretion often turns into instinct. Instinct becomes pursuit. Pursuit becomes escalation. ICE does not operate under the same localized oversight or pursuit policies as many city departments. In this case, local authorities weren't even aware of the stop until the crash. So ask yourself, was initiating that stop worth a life? Was escalating it into a chase worth a teacher? Was that enforcement decision proportional to the risk it created? Because Dr. Linda Davis didn't consent to be collateral damage in a federal enforcement action. This isn't about policies. This is about public safety. When agencies exercise broad discretion without tight coordination and strict pursuit limits, innocent people absorb the consequences. And that's exactly what happened here. Dr. Davis should still be here. Say her name. Dr. Linda Davis.